You're welcome back to Business Morning. The two-day Stakeholders Forum on the Nigerian Capital Markets Legislation Conference is underway in Abuja. It's been a very incisive and very mind-boggling issues that have been raised at that event. Of course, yesterday we had the Senate President speaking about how we can create jobs through the capital markets. We also had the CEO, or rather the President of the Council of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, Mr. AIG-Imoukhuede, was also speaking yesterday. And right now we're also having the program in session. We're seeing participants at that event gathered to listen to other things that will be raised at that event. We also later on the program at the event, we'll be listening to the CEO of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, Mr. Oscar Onyema, talking about demutualization of the NSC. Right now, we have joining us on the program is the Executive Director, Capital Markets Division at the Nigerian Stock Exchange, Mr. Haruna Jallo Waziri, as he discusses with us demutualization of the NSC. Good morning, Mr. Waziri.
Good morning, Balaji.
Thank you for joining us on the program. I'm sure that you have been listening to a lot of issues raised at that event. But very quickly, demutualization have actually provided exchanges access to more capital that they were incapable of raising. And this has enabled them meet their needs and stay competitive without necessarily placing additional financial burden on the exchanges. Now, how optimistic are the authorities on the plan to demutualize the NSC?
But there's a bit of background noise, so I can barely hear you. But let me say what I think you were trying to ask me. You're trying to find out the benefits of demutualization, am I correct?
Yes, please.
Okay, you have to look at it from what a mutual is, first of all. So a mutual is like a club membership where, you know, members contribute or guarantee the existence of that institution. As such, there is a limitation to what that mutual can do or that institution. So, in the first place, when you create value in that mutual, the karma does not allow you to actually be able to distribute income. So long as you remain a mutual, there is no liquidity event that can ever occur. As such, that is one disadvantage that you can think. So, you built an institution, it has such, you know, value in it, and you put in all of the effort to make it to what it is, and yet you can't take out the benefit. I think that's one of the key things that members are looking for.
Okay, at what stage is the NSC in the process of demutualizing it?
I'm sorry, at what stage did the NSC do what?
What stage are you in the process of demutualizing?
Oh, okay. Right now, we have gone through 3 processes. So the SEC has released a framework for demutualization for the Nigerian Stock Exchange. We have gone further to actually appoint financial advisors as well as legal advisors to help us walk through the process. The third thing we've done is that, if you remember, the common issue around who is a member of the stock exchange is also being resolved. And we're resolving it through having hired consultants to actually help us walk through the mini books and, you know, verify the current register that we have. And a lot of work is going around meeting the step-by-step, you know, requirements of the framework to ensure that we get demutualized at an appropriate time.
What challenges has the NSC faced in this process?
What at the NSC?
What challenges have you faced before you got to the stage that you are in?
Okay, so the first thing was that, prior to the effort that we were making, was that we didn't have a framework. Gladly, the current management of SEC was able to help provide a framework. So that is the fundamental thing that we think was the laying foundation for us to have a demutualization. Secondly, is that we didn't have an effective register. And so working through the register and building one today was one of the key things that we found that was a little bit difficult. Now, the other thing is how you can become a PLC to limited by guarantee, but does not specify how you become a limited by guarantee to PLC. So all of those are probably the three things that we think are fundamental in how the timeline to demutualization will probably occur.
Over 80% of members of the World Federation of Exchanges are currently demutualized, with some publicly listed while others are not. When you take a cue from how these exchanges are faring, how much change do you think demutualization of the NSE can bring to the Nigerian capital markets?
So, if you look at exchanges over time that have moved from a mutual to a demutualized entity, the first thing that you would see is an expansion of the capacities of that particular exchange. So things like mergers, acquisitions, entering other markets, and raising capital to be able to do more of what they're doing is key to the history of how exchanges that have moved from a mutual to a demutualized institution would be visible. So for us, we've seen what others have done. There's a template that easily can be seen, and it also allows us as an exchange to be able to do a lot more things that we are doing today that we couldn't do if we remained as a mutual.
What kind of innovation do you think you would want to bring on board as a result of this demutualization?
Absolutely. Innovation is key to how we think the demutualization will help us. So, for example, if you look at the way decisions are made and how we think as a mutual, and the difference between, how we think as a demutualized entity than a mutual, certainly there will be a lot more innovation because the decision process is going to be different.
Now, Mr. Waziri, demutualization is often said to bring a mix of shareholders and members together, thereby neutralizing the dominance of members, if any such actually exists at the Nigerian Stock Exchange. What kind of structure do you expect demutualization to bring to the market in terms of market changes and meeting customers' needs?
Oh, certainly. It's normal for club members to protect themselves. And when you protect yourself, you limit yourself to other possibilities in terms of, either a new product or, like you mentioned, market structure and all of that. Now, when you demutualize, it becomes a for-profit institution. As a for-profit institution, decisions you take are not sentimental. They're not based to protect a certain interest. It's actually going to be commercially driven. And typically, when you have an institution that's commercially driven, decisions are taken based on common sense and reason, leading up to what the institution should be a better institution. So that is likely to be the structure that you see at the end of the day. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, it's actually a good thing.
So how does the NSE intend to strengthen corporate governance in its management? Because it is said that a demutualized structure may harm a self-regulatory entity.
I don't think there will be any significant difference in terms of governance from what the exchange is today as a mutual to when it becomes a demutualized entity. I mean, governance is governance, whether you're a for-profit or for non-profit, because, you know, we expect that the exchange will also abide by the corporate governance code and any governance code that is being issued within this territory and even above, because the key to how exchanges are established is actually based on corporate governance. So, for example, we have what we call the corporate governance rating system. So, at the pilot stage, the exchange, that's the Nigerian Stock Exchange, actually participated in the pilot scheme ourselves. Because the thinking is that we can't issue a governance rating system without us going through that process as well. So, we expect that, in fact, by the time we become a demutualized entity, you're likely to see the governance level even being, the hurdle being set higher than it is currently. Because we have to be seen to be above board for us to be able to even become an exchange to be able to provide a platform for people to trade.
I'm sure that you know that the stock market is not at the level we all want it to be for now. And that is somewhat impacted on investors' confidence. But how do you think demutualization going forward would impact market performance?
So the issue is, you mentioned earlier, is around innovation. Key to markets are, you want a fair and equitable market that is liquid. And we think that if anything at all, demutualization will bring that innovation that allow us to bring in other experts or market participants that will be able to, you know, bring that liquidity that's required in this market, and also bring the platform for new listings to actually occur in the market, which are the two things we read currently in our market.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Haruna Jallo Waziri, for your time there.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Haruna Jallo Waziri is the Executive Director, Capital Market Division at the Nigerian Stock Exchange, and he's been talking to us about the importance, the benefits of demutualization of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. It's been a process for the NSE authorities to arrive at the level that it is, and of course it has just a few steps to go before it finally arrives at the house called demutualization. And of course the CEO of the NSE, Mr. Oscar Onyema, will be talking more about demutualization of the NSE at this day's event, talking about the two-day stakeholders forum of the Nigerian Capital Market Legislation Conference. The theme of that event, again, is realizing the full potentials of the Nigerian economy through proactive capital markets legislation. And talking about legislation, the Senate President, Dr. Bukola Saraki, had said that there are a number of bills that would have to be amended in the Nigerian capital market in order to make it in sync with present-day realities, talking about some outdated bills that may have to be reviewed by the legislature. And of course, and that is expected to impact positively on the growth of not just the capital market, but the economy at large. It is one avenue that the country can create jobs, increase funding for infrastructure development, and move the country out of its slow growth arena. Okay, Business Morning continues after this break. We'll be right back.